Welcome to Nerdaties. Bitches.
No topic too absurd, no statement too asinine. Nerdy Jersey's finest, no question too interesting. That's right. It's a Nerdy's interview show. I, as ever, am Mike, joined by
Justin.
and
Joe.
as well as our guest tonight, writer and artist as well, Steve Bynoe. Hello.
Good evening, everyone. How you guys doing?
Uh, really good. Happy to have you.
Pretty good.
So,
Perfect.
what's the current project you got going on?
So currently, I'm working on Atrium. It's a 5-issue miniseries, and we've already kickstarted the first 3 issues. We did that on Kickstarter starting in November of 2023, and then we did issues 2 and 3 together for the second Kickstarter this spring. And now we're doing issues 4 and 5 in the Atrium 1 to 5 Kickstarter campaign.
So, the quick synopsis was paramedics with a escort team and killer assassin vampires.
Pretty much it.
All right, that's the elevator pitch. Vampires. We also do a comic. We have a story involving vampires.
Nice.
One of my favorite things to do with vampires is mess with the lore. Did you take a lot of freedoms with the lore, or did you go straight forward with their like abilities and background?
Oh yeah, we're taking full liberties with it. So there's a lot of stuff that we kind of went off the beaten track with. We keep some stuff, and then other stuff we totally disregard. And that's part of the charm of the story and the back and the world that we're trying to build. And so, without giving away too much, yes, there are vampires. Yes, they drink blood, but then the reasons why they do and why they're after this heart, they get revealed, a little bit as each issue goes along.
Do you have any connections to paramedics, or does it just like service the story better?
Totally services the story. I'm a teacher by trade. I retired a couple of years ago, but it was just one of those things where we needed a heart to be transported, and who else to do that kind of a milk run kind of job other than a paramedic? So I did a little bit of research. Usually they get air vac in, and this time we decided to keep them in an ambulance.
So with something like that involving something so medical and scientific, is realism important, or after a while in the story does this kind of go away? Because like you have a ticking clock with something like a organ being delivered. Do you play fast and loose with the time frame of that, or is that a huge part of the story?
It's not quite like 24 where you've got with every break or then every issue you get like a time update. And we do pretty much pay close attention to how long each segment or how long the duration of the story. And we're pretty much rooted in reality outside of the vampire aspect of it. Because the vampires, they don't show up, or at least the fact that they're vampires don't show up right away. So it's one of those things where we're rooted in a pretty grounded world that we've created. And then you have this kind of off the rails horror action suspense kind of situation take place.
Yeah, I often find it's better when something high concept or fantasy just drops in the middle of a realistic situation. It's got more weight to it than if you're in a sword and sorcery world and something magical happens.
Yeah, it's kind of like From Dusk Till Dawn. If you flipped the movie and had the crazy stuff at the beginning and then it went into just like a straight crime drama at the end, it'd be like, what? But the other one, you're totally like off the rails, excited to see how these guys are going to get out of it, and we're kind of crafting the same sort of feel.
Says in your bio you're also an artist. Is handing off the art duties to a book like this, does it grate at you, or is it just like this isn't something you felt comfortable trying to tackle, or not all of the work at the same time? Like, what was the decision behind finding another artist?
First off, I thought it was probably not a fit for my style. And we had an artist initially, Christian Zanier, a good friend of ours, and it just didn't work out. Like, we had drawn some pages, we got pretty close to getting ready to pitch it, and it just didn't work out in terms of like where we wanted the story to go, and then his ability to finish it. So we went another direction, and the writing and the art part for me was kind of cool because like when I write, I think of it as if I'm an artist. So it's like, okay, how many panels can we fit on a page? What's the dialogue going to be here? how cramped or what kind of beats do I want to get on the page. And then when we hired Lucas Falapi, who's out of Brazil, he's fantastic, and he's done amazing work on the book so far. It was a pleasure to kind of see him interpret the story that Peter Van Horn, who's the co-writer and one of the co-creators, had crafted. And in some cases, it was like, whoa, he took this in a space that we didn't think was even possible. And then other times, like just a little note here or there where it's like, oh, can you add this? Can you make sure you do this? But it was one of those things where after seeing his first couple of pages, I just put my hands up and let him kind of go with it. And the one thing I didn't want to do was restrain him when it came to like making creative choices.
So this is rooted in realism, but with a fantasy. Would you call it more fantasy or sci-fi leaning?
I'd say sci-fi horror.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are there any other genres you play around with or want to play around with or planning to?
Superhero genre. I've actually published a novella back in 2014 called Chronocari Alpha. And that's about two kids who are born at exactly the same time. And then when they collide in gym class, they realize they have the power to control time. So like, superhero
cool.
stuff. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, that was kind of fun and got some good feedback from that. And then I'm also working on a spy thriller, which is set in Barbados. It's based on a novel that my uncle wrote, I guess in the early 80s. So I updated it. It's called Edge, East Wind, and Paradise. And basically what happens is it's about this agent named Edge who works for the Barbadian Secret Service. And while intercepting a cache of guns being smuggled into the island one night, he uncovers a plot to destabilize the government. So I have that planned out, not only to draw, but to write and draw that one, as well as Chronocari Alpha.
That's really interesting. So like, I don't think I've ever taken someone else's work that close to me and tried to recreate. Like we've all, for class, in school, we've all been told to take an idea and run with it, but
right.
A family member's story, and would you like rebooting it or how much of it are you tweaking?
So for Eastwind, since it was already published, all we did, because it was written in the 80s, it didn't have all the tech of like cell phones. And so I added that. And some of the story points, nowadays, because if you ever watch like an old movie and it's like, oh, there's a race to go find somebody. Nowadays, you just call them. So it takes away all of the drama, right? Of that chase scene to get to where you have to go. So it was those kind of little tweaks, but I kept the dialogue pretty much on point. And it was one of the things, like when I first kind of thought about, leaving teaching and getting into writing, I went and I spent the summer with him in Barbados. I spent a few weeks with him. And it was just like, we went over like doing a sequel, because I've always wanted him to continue writing it, but he was a little up in years. And in the middle of coming up with another story, which I'm, still working on finishing, he says, Steve, why don't you just redo the first one? And so I thought about it a little bit, and that's what I decided to do. So I updated that, published it through Amazon, through the KDP program, and now I'm going to turn that into a comic.
Was there any temptation for the both of you guys to just kind of re-release the original version and then build the sequel off of that? Or like he really wanted you to take what he did and mold it your own?
Yeah, he kind of gave me free reign on it, which was, very generous of him. And I guess that's one of the benefits of working with family sometimes, is that certain hurdles you don't have to jump through. So I spoke with his kids. I'm pretty close with my cousin Peter, and we decided, let's go for it. And so basically all I did was I just minor tweaks, right? So imagine watching Serpico, right? And instead of going to a payphone, you'd pull out your cell phone.
Okay.
Yeah.
More of a remaster rather than a reboot.
Pretty much, yeah. Kind of like, like when George Lucas kind of tinkers with his movies, kind of same thing.
Special, super duper special edition.
Yeah, a good way to have you buy the 78th edition of the same movie.
Looked like you were leaning in, Joe. Did you have one?
Oh no, I was just gonna add, I bought Skyrim maybe 4 times already with those special editions. Steve, first question, what were you a teacher of?
I taught K to 6, so I taught grade 6 here in Toronto for about 11 years, and then I switched to the younger grades. So I was when I retired, I was teaching a grade 2-3 class.
Okay. And
Which one's a bigger pain in the ass?
It's interesting. Like, you would have thought that the sixes were, the older kids, so they're around 11, 12. They would have been a bigger challenge, but there's different stuff you can do with them. And they were more in tune with like comics and video games and the like. So when you're not teaching them, or even some of the lessons that I could kind of craft, I could then, have them make a comic book, have them make their own superheroes. And I think one of the last things I did, but it might have been with one of the younger groups, was I made them make their own toy. They designed their own toy. And so I bought like packaging where they made the toy, and then they had to design the card and then give all the stuff on the back. So they enjoyed that kind of stuff. They had to do turns and stuff. So I brought some of my art background into it, and then I said, you know what would I have liked to have done as a kid?
Wow.
That's really cool.
That's a great teacher. And obviously the township reimbursed you for all that, of course.
No, I think the packages, it was outside of the school budget, so that's the kind of stuff that I paid for. I didn't mind doing that.
That's some great.
Mike, he's in Canada too, so they probably would have like done their best at least.
Oh, they might have given him some. They have an educational system up there.
You guys have one too. It's
Yeah,
No,
it's on the verge.
We
Come
went
a couple
to
months from now. Who knows?
our school system when we were there was actually pretty good. I did notice something. I'm a baseball fan, and I did notice in your video you are totally wearing a Montreal Expos hat, but you're in Toronto, so
yeah. The beauty of being in Toronto and being an MLB fan is that back in the day, with only two teams, you can like both of them. And then, you're then a little bit divided. Like, I'm a Jays fan first, but I love the Expos. Still haven't recovered from the 94 strike when they, when baseball got halted because of the work stoppage, and then the Expos were in first, and that team was loaded.
Oh yeah, it was.
It would have been nice to have 3 years in a row Canadian representation in the World Series.
I still want to see Canada get another baseball team. I really think Montreal should definitely make another play for one.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It'd be nice. I go up to Montreal quite a bit to watch hockey. I'm a big hockey fan as well too. So it's always, it's a good sports town. And when you talk about like teams that other MLB fans from other cities, would like to see get back in, a lot of the other cities in the States are like, yeah, Montreal. A lot of great memories about Montreal when it comes to baseball.
That's a great city.
You probably couldn't tell, but Joe's a Mets fan.
I am. You know what? And I'm not quite sure what the score is.
6-2
right now. Oh, okay. Is it for the Mets?
It's for the Mets. It's the
okay.
top
So you can breathe easy tonight.
I'm trying.
There's a lot of turmoil in New York sports today, because I heard about Salah getting fired for the Jets.
Yeah, and I'm a Jets fan, so yeah.
Oh, so you're having an up and down day.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's an up day. Maybe you weren't a fan of his.
Yeah, he meh. I'm not a fan of the Jets right now. I think they kind of are meh. But
that's how I feel about the Jays. So I'm good. I'm good with you. I totally understand.
Could you tell us about Comics Asylum?
Yeah, so Comics Asylum Publishing, which Atrium is being published under, that has initially started as like an entertainment website, and my partner Vaughn Joseph, who does the design work for Atrium, he and I back in like 2014 were like, hey, we love comics. We're working on stuff that we want to do ourselves, but why don't we start a digital magazine? So we started one where you could read it on the iPad, get it for a subscription, and we would have like, the trailers embedded within the magazine. We wrote articles. And then we decided to move from that platform, just go straight to the web, and then started our YouTube channel. And what we did was we were getting like screeners from The Walking Dead. We'd get to interview some of the stars. And then we started a podcast as well too. And so we would just publish all the news blasts from all the comic book companies, and as well as the movie houses.
That's kind of the backwards way we've been doing it. We did the podcast first, then did YouTube, and then trickling that way. But that's really awesome. I was reading your site. You got it's, as I like to say, it's super nerdy.
It's very creative, Joe. You pulled that one out of your own.
I know. I like that. That's it. That's
I wear my geek hat with pride. I remember just as a kid riding to the variety store, like late 70s, to pick up. I don't know if there was such a thing as like a a Wednesday where all the books would come out. I just know like, oh, I got to go pick up my Batman or Teen Titans or Spider-Man or whatever. And I just remember riding to the store and trying to not let my mom know that I'm spending all my money on comics.
Yeah, when I think about the dumb trips I took to comic shops back in the 90s, like on major highways,
right,
of underpasses I'm going under, like you wait for a ride. Wait for the weekend.
That sounds like a movie, actually.
It is. Life does feel like a movie at times. So while you're just talking about nerddom, can you throw out a top 3, or is there just too many? Like top 3 fandoms you have?
How do you mean, like within gaming or toys or comics or heroes? What?
That's the proper question to follow my very vague, poorly worded question.
That was a good one.
Yeah. That's actually the kind of question I'd ask a question like that with, because you gotta
because that's a lot. Like, because I can answer my top 3 like IPs that I like to follow, whether it's through gaming or anime or
that is the broadest.
Comics.
Hold on. Did you say anime?
He said anime. That's right.
Yeah.
You can have your moment with him.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's honestly some of the best storytelling right now is in anime.
Right. What are you watching?
Oh, so I guess can you list Arcane in there? Like I just finished watching that.
I think I would.
There's one, I'm gonna totally butcher the name, but it's like Diamatsu I'd have to like look it up, but it's one that came out last year and it's off of a manga and it only went for I think 13 episodes, it's fantastic. It's pretty grim.
Okay.
Love that. I enjoyed, this might seem a little bit off the track, but I enjoyed watching Fairy Tail back in the day with my daughter.
Did you start the new series?
There's a new series?
Yeah, the 100-year. They came back and did the 100-year quest.
Okay, I'm gonna have to check that out.
Just dropped on Crunchyroll like 2 weeks ago.
All right, sounds good. I'm gonna have to check that out. And then like if like for like some deep cuts, like Ninja Scroll.
There we go.
Back in the day. I grew up on Gatchaman. I'm I guess a Joe guy or Jason, depending if you watch Battle of the Planets. Robotech, obviously Akira, Evangelion. I like a lot of stuff, and then there's a lot of great new stuff too. I love Miyazaki, and probably my all-time favorite is Princess Mononoke.
It's good. Have you watched the Boy and the Heron yet?
Oh, saw it. Yeah, we saw it. I saw it at TIFF. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Beautiful film.
It's on my queue. I haven't gotten to it yet, but
I think you'll like it. I think you'll really like it.
Okay. This might be nerd political, but I'm going to throw it out there. Where do you stand on Star Wars these days? This is almost election level nerd talk. This gets people divided.
I'm going to tell you the honest truth about Star Wars. I love Star Wars to my core. As a kid, I used to play with the toys. I had all the action figures. A buddy of mine, Dave, who's now in film.
I'm waiting for a butt.
Yeah, there's a butt coming. Empire Strikes Back is one of my all-time favorite films, probably my top 5 of all time in any genre.
It's a huge butt.
The butt was, what was the second movie that Rian Johnson did out of the
Last Jedi?
Yeah. The Last Jedi. Right. So I was waiting to see it. I liked the one that J.J. Abrams did, I think Force Awakens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was like watching, to me, it seemed like beat for beat, like A New Hope.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I get where they're going. They got really good, graphics. The casting was great. And then my little cousin, when the second movie came out, I asked him, he said, "Did you see it yet?" And I said, "No." And he goes, "Oh, too bad. Luke dies." I was like, "What?"
Joe, did he say this to you in person?
He said it to me, and I'm like, I was like, "Oh," but he was like 7. Right?
Oh,
he was a little kid, and I was like, and so in my mind, I'm going, how does Luke die? Because especially after Han died,
I
was like, so they didn't have the original 3 have one scene together, like not even one, like a 2-minute thing. And I have so many problems with the Force Awakens with like when Han dies and then Leia hugs Rey first and ignores Chewie.
That was
I'm like, what?
On first viewing, we were all like, what are you doing?
Like, who is this random girl?
Yeah.
And so there were so many problems. I thought the things they had in place were great. The execution was a little bit off, so I don't know if things got edited out. And so since then, I've kind of watched Star Wars from like a side glance. So I loved The Mandalorian. First season of The Mandalorian got me right back into Star Wars. Book of Boba Fett kind of got me off Star Wars.
We're vibing a lot right now. We're vibing.
The Acolyte, I watched it. I don't think it deserves as much hate, but I understand some of the storytelling stuff. Like, spoiler alert, I can't remember the Jedi's name, but when he has the twins, he has to make the decision.
When Saul has to lift
right.
two
and I'm thinking,
8-pound kids.
Why don't you just lift them up off the bridge and let the bridge fall? There were like some weird stuff where it's kind of like, okay, we're driving the story this way without realizing their powers. And so I don't know.
And there's been a conversation that's happened on our show. There's been a conversation I've had with a lot of my friends that are into it. They were the most incompetent Jedi of all time. Everyone on that show was utterly incompetent. It was just painful to watch in that respect.
Yeah, and I was really looking forward to Carrie-Anne Moss kind of bringing her training Jedi action.
Right.
And then it's like, first 5 minutes, you're like, what? So I guess it was like Luke 2.0 for me, where it's like, oh, come on, man.
Yeah.
And then so basically every time you get her, spoiler for anyone who's watching, it's flashbacks. And I was just like, they had such potential. And I don't know, you guys can correct me on this, but like the beauty of Vader for me was not having him actually be like Anakin. It was like he was just a force of nature, and that's what made him such an amazing villain, right? So with the Acolyte, when this mysterious Sith showed up, I'm like, this guy's badass. He's headbutting people, like he's doing crazy stuff. And then I love the actor, but as soon as they took the mask off, then it's like, oh, he's completely humanized. And then it's like it's almost like the lines between good and evil kind of get blurred a little bit in modern storytelling. I kind of like a little bit of a throwback to like, these people are just evil, these people are just good.
Right?
Can we have 2 hours of these guys beating the other people and go from there?
That's the initial conceit of Star Wars. It's obvious, like white hats versus black hats.
Yeah.
Initially, I think like the first movies were designed for kids. He said it multiple
absolutely.
times. But I think the thing about the franchise as a whole now is you can tell a lot of different stories in it. We've seen Mandalorian. You can tell Westerns. And this Skeleton Crew coming up, I think they're going to do their Goonies. They're going to do Space Goonies.
Yeah.
So some of them have to have those shades of gray. And I was kind of happy with, there's shades of gray in this Acolyte show. But like the way they were applied with that brush.
It's execution. You're exactly right.
Yeah.
You're exactly correct. And it's not to like disenfranchise the actors. Like I think the actors a lot of times are just given what they get. And depending on the writing, to me, the writing starts everything.
Yeah.
And then decisions in editing rooms and directors, that follows. And sometimes I think it's a little bit misguided, but that's just my point of view.
Seems pretty accurate from my point of view too.
I agree with you.
We are running out of time, unfortunately. We've all got a heart out, but it's a really, really fun conversation. Thank you for your time. Atrium on Kickstarter. You guys, have you made your goal yet?
Yeah, we made our goal in about 30 hours, which was great. And now we're winding down. Thank you.
Your stretch goals are nice because they're not crazy over the top.
No,
but it's more about getting to commitments, not even the money amount. You need folks to get a certain amount of folks. So at this point, 50 for your first stretch goals. And they're all fun things that if all of them come through, it's a nice package that everybody will get.
Yeah, we've got some other ones too that if we can get through the ones that we have there, we'll add them. And you never know. We had some conversations with the team and I about maybe inserting some in between the ones we have now. It just depends on if we can hit one or two of them, and then we'll add some kind of nice little trinkets and stuff in there. But the feedback that we've gotten for Atrium has been fantastic. Our backers have been sensational. Without them, and then the people that we meet at conventions and have bought the book, and people such as yourselves giving us a chance to talk about it, Atrium would not exist without them.
Well, thank you for your time, Atrium. Asylum Comics, right?
Comics Asylum Publishing.
Comics absolutely. Asylum. Mildly Listexic. All the other socials are thrown out. All of our socials are Nerdaties. You people know where to go and where not to go. So we'll just end it with the way we end most shows. Classic Good old fuck bye. My
Bye.
brother used to say stupid. Fuck bye.
Have a good one, everyone.